Welcome to True Crime Case Files. In today's episode, we delve into a tale that shook the seemingly innocent world of children's television to its core. It's a story of ambition, secrecy, and ultimately, tragedy. This is the case of Barry Staleson, a beloved children's show host whose life was cut short in a most unexpected manner. In the heart of Cleveland, Ohio, where the Cuyahoga River winds past the steel and glass skyline, Barry Staleson was a beacon of joy for the city's youngest residents. At age 31, he was the star of The World of Wonder, a children's program that aired on the local PBS affiliate, WVIZ. With a background in education from Ohio State University, Barry brought a blend of learning and entertainment to television screens, captivating his audience with a mix of puppetry, storytelling, and genuine warmth. Barry's life off-camera was modest and unassuming. He resided in a two-bedroom apartment on Euclid Avenue, a bustling street lined with shops and cafes, where the echoes of the Cleveland Indians playing at the nearby Municipal Stadium could often be heard. Despite the national fervor over Michael Jackson's Bad tour and the release of U2's The Joshua Tree, Barry remained focused on his work, crafting educational content that resonated with children and parents alike. In the days leading up to June 14, 1987, Barry was engrossed in preparations for a special live event designed to engage his young fans. His family, including his parents, George and Mary Staleson, and his sister, and spoke of him as a visionary, someone whose aspirations went beyond fame or fortune. He aimed to leave a lasting impact on the world of children's education, perhaps inspired by the recent success of the Reading Rainbow initiative. Barry's dedication to his craft and his community was evident. He was often spotted at the West Side Market, engaging with locals and sharing stories. His presence on screen and in person was a testament to his commitment to the city he loved, a city that was, at the time, riding the wave of economic resurgence, with the opening of the Tower City Center complex heralding a new era of prosperity. Yet, beneath the surface of this idyllic tableau, tension simmered. Barry's ambitions and personal life, intricately woven into the fabric of his daily existence, were on a collision course with fate. The unraveling of this thread would leave the city and its children grappling with a loss that reverberated far beyond the television screen. June 14, 1987, dawned with a gray overcast that seemed to foreshadow the grim events about to unfold in Cleveland, Ohio. The city, normally abuzz with the early stirrings of summer and the anticipation of the Indian season, was unaware of the tragedy that had struck in a quiet apartment on the west side. Barry Staleson, 31, a local children's television icon, was found dead, an abrupt end to a life dedicated to educating and entertaining the young minds of the area. At approximately 8:30 a.m., the stillness of the Lakewood neighborhood was pierced by the sound of sirens as police cars rushed to the scene. Barry's lifeless body had been discovered by his partner, Warren O'Hare, in the bathroom of their shared apartment. The image of Barry, fully clothed and submerged in the bathtub with a gunshot wound to the head, would haunt those who knew him as the vivacious host of The World of Wonder. Warren, overcome with shock, had managed to dial 911, his voice barely coherent as he reported the harrowing discovery. The operator, trained to maintain composure in the face of panic, dispatched emergency services to the address, a building typically known for its peacefulness and proximity to the bustling shops of Detroit Avenue. As the news of Barry's death began to spread, local radio stations interrupted their regular programming, which featured the popular tunes of Whitney Houston's I Wanna Dance with Somebody and Kim Wilde's You Keep Me Hangin' On, to report on the incident. The Cleveland Plain Dealer would later detail the scene in a front-page story, capturing the city's shock and the beginning of a frenzy. Detectives Laura Ingalls and Theodore Hoberman arrived to investigate, stepping into a scene that contrasted sharply with the innocence of Barry's on-screen persona. The revolver, a .38 caliber, lay ominously on the tiled floor, a silent testament to the violence that had occurred. As the forensic team collected fingerprints and blood samples, the detectives faced the daunting task of piecing together the final moments of a man who had brought so much light to others but had met such a dark and untimely end. On that fateful June morning, Cleveland's police department received a distress call that would lead to an investigation intertwining with the city's fabric. Arriving at the scene, detectives Laura Ingalls and Theodore Hoberman were met with a grim tableau. Barry Staleson, a figure synonymous with wholesome entertainment on WVIZ, Cleveland's local PBS station, lay deceased in his apartment, a stark contrast to the vibrant persona he projected on the airwaves. The detectives, with years of experience between them, began their meticulous work in the bathroom where Barry's body was found. The scene was macabre, a life extinguished amidst the mundane setting of ceramic tiles and toiletries. The walls bore silent witness to the violence, speckled with blood that once coursed through the heart of a man who had dedicated his life to educating and entertaining children. At the center of this tragic scene was the murder weapon, a .38 caliber revolver, its presence an ominous punctuation to the life it had ended. It lay discarded on the floor, a few feet from Barry's body, as if to distance itself from the act it had committed. The detectives collected it along with other potential evidence, including fingerprints that clung to the gunmetal and blood samples that told a silent, yet revealing, story. The police were thorough, dusting for prints that might reveal who else had been in the apartment. The questions were many. Was it a break-in gone wrong, or something more personal? The local media, from the Plain Dealer to WKYC-TV, were soon to pick up on the story, and the nation's attention turned briefly away from the Iran-Contra hearings and the release of the iconic film The Untouchables, to focus on this local tragedy. As Ingalls and Hoberman stepped out of the apartment, the evidence in hand, they knew the investigation would be challenging. The city of Cleveland, still reeling from the recent economic downturns, was not unfamiliar with crime, but the murder of a beloved children's show host was a new low. The detectives vowed to unravel the mystery, aware that the eyes of both the city and the nation were upon them, waiting for answers that would bring closure to a story that had touched the hearts of many. As Cleveland's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Foundation laid down its roots, another member of the city, Teresa Cruz Alvord, found herself under a different kind of spotlight. At 26, Teresa was the effervescent co-host of The World of Wonder, sharing the screen with Barry Staleson. However, beneath her on-air camaraderie with Barry lay a web of ambition and envy that would soon draw the attention of the Cleveland Police Department. In the wake of Barry's untimely death, detectives turned their gaze to Teresa, whose rapid ascent in children's television had been shadowed by the success of her more experienced counterpart. Rumors swirled within the station, suggesting that Teresa had viewed Barry as a barrier to her own rise to stardom. With Barry's passing, the path to becoming the face of Viz's children's programming would ostensibly be cleared, a motive that did not escape the scrutiny of law enforcement. During her interrogation, Teresa's demeanor oscillated between defensive posturing and a thinly veiled contempt for the deceased. Her responses, though carefully measured, betrayed a sense of frustration with Barry, whom she had allegedly perceived as monopolizing the creative direction of their show. Detectives probed for inconsistencies in her alibi, which placed her at a local fundraiser at the Cleveland Public Theater on the evening before Barry was found. The investigation into Teresa's potential motive coincided with the media's growing interest in the case. The Plain Dealer's coverage raised public speculation, and local news stations interrupted broadcasts of popular shows like LA Law and Cheers with updates, fueling a narrative of a partnership turned sour. The scrutiny into Teresa's professional relationship with Barry was compounded by her recent, though discreet, meetings with executives from Hasbro, who had been in town discussing potential sponsorship deals. These meetings, which Barry had reportedly been excluded from, added another layer of complexity to the investigation. As the summer of '87 continued to heat up with the release of Whitney Houston's Whitney album and the anticipation of the upcoming RoboCop film, the city of Cleveland found itself gripped by a real-life drama that seemed to draw inspiration from the very shows that captivated its residents. In the heart of the Rust Belt, the city of Cleveland was still reeling from the economic blows of the era, and now from the shock of Barry Stoleson's untimely death. The investigation's lens turned to Warren O'Hare, age 32, not only Barry's domestic partner, but also his confidant and supporter in his life and career. The couple's relationship, though a beacon of companionship, was fraught with the pressure of potential public scrutiny. Warren, who had discovered Barry's body on that overcast June morning, was enveloped in a fog of grief and disbelief as he sat across from detectives Ingalls and Hoberman. The room, stark and clinical, was a far cry from the colorful set of Barry's children's show, where joy and laughter were once the order of the day. The detectives, aware of the societal prejudices of the time, approached the questioning with sensitivity, yet with the pressing need to uncover the truth. The specter of the relationship being exposed by a colleague, and the consequent risk to Barry's career in an age less accepting of diversity and personal relationships, was a cloud that had hung over the pair. Warren's testimony was punctuated by a profound sorrow, his voice often breaking as he recounted the harrowing discovery of his life partner's body. His cooperation with the investigation was unwavering, Yet his emotional state painted a picture of a man on the brink of losing everything he held dear. As the interview progressed, the detectives took note of Warren's consistent narrative and his apparent lack of motive for the crime. The media buzzed with updates, speculating on the impact this case would have on the national conversation about the lives of public figures and their right to privacy. Outside the interrogation room, the city continued its daily rhythm, the skyline dominated by the terminal tower standing as a silent observer to the unfolding drama. The detectives knew that each piece of evidence could be crucial, and Warren's testimony was a significant element in the puzzle that was Barry Stolzen's demise. As the summer of 1987 progressed, Cleveland, Ohio, found itself in the grip of an unusually oppressive heatwave. Temperatures soared, and so did tensions within the city's law enforcement as they grappled with the high-profile case of Barry Stolzen's murder. It was on June 20th, a day when the local news was abuzz with the release of the film Spaceballs, and radio stations played Whitney Houston's hit, I Wanna Dance with Somebody, that a crucial piece of evidence surfaced. A letter, postmarked June 11th, 3 days before the grim discovery of Barry's body, arrived at the Cleveland Police Department. The envelope, standard and unremarkable, belied the sinister message within. The content was a veiled threat, laced with vitriol and a disturbingly personal tone against the children's show host. The letter, when held up to the light, revealed the watermark of the upscale Statler office supply, a detail that suggested the author had access to high-quality materials. Detectives Engels and Hoberman, who had been meticulously combing through the case, seized upon the letter as a potential breakthrough. Forensic experts were immediately brought in to analyze the handwriting and to trace the origins of the paper. Their efforts paid off when they matched the handwriting to samples from a fan mail database at the PBS station where Barry's show was filmed. The trail led to Lockton Hollister, a name that initially meant little to the investigators. A 16-year-old from a prominent Cleveland family, Lockton's background was a stark contrast to the world of public broadcasting and puppet shows. Yet, the evidence was irrefutable. Lockton's fingerprints matched those on the letter, and further investigation revealed a cache of similar correspondence sent to Barry's personal address. The Hollister family, known for their philanthropy and social standing, were thrust into the media spotlight, a position they found both uncomfortable and unfamiliar. The Cleveland Plain Dealer ran a front-page story on the arrest, while television crews from stations like WKYC and WJW Fox 8 clamored for interviews and footage. Amidst the glare of national attention, the investigation took a turn towards the unexpected as the once clear narrative of Barry's death began to unravel, revealing the complex tapestry of human emotions and obsessions. On June 22, 1987, as the city of Cleveland continued to reel from the Indians' loss to the Texas Rangers at Cleveland Stadium, the investigation into Barry Stolzen's murder took a dramatic turn. Detectives Laura Engels and Theodore Hoberman of the Cleveland Police Department shifted their focus to Lockton Hollister, a 16-year-old scion of a well-to-do Cleveland family, whose fingerprints had been found on a threatening letter sent to Barry. Lockton's privileged life was a stark contrast to the world Barry had inhabited. Educated at the prestigious University School, a preparatory academy known for its rigorous academic standards and affluent student body, Lockton seemed an unlikely suspect. However, the investigation revealed a deeply troubled teenager behind the facade of privilege. Lockton's bedroom, a well-appointed space with posters of the era's popular bands like U2, whose With or Without You topped the charts that summer, was also a shrine to Barry Stolzen. Investigators found walls plastered with photos and news clippings of the children's show host, some adorned with handwritten notes that oscillated between adoration and anger. During interrogation, Lockton presented a complex figure. His behavior was erratic. He could be disarmingly calm one moment, only to erupt into fits of rage the next. Psychologists involved in the case pointed to a possible delusional disorder, suggesting that Lockton had developed a pathological obsession with Barry. The teenager seemed to genuinely believe that he and Barry were destined to be together, a belief that may have turned darkly possessive. The media descended upon the Hollister estate, eager to unravel the story of how a teenager from one of Cleveland's most respected families could be implicated in such a sordid affair. The Hollisters, for their part, remained tight-lipped, offering no comments beyond a terse statement pleading for privacy. As the summer of '87 marched on, with the airwaves filled with the sounds of Hearts Alone, and the box offices dominated by The Untouchables, the city of Cleveland found itself grappling with a case that blurred the lines between wealth, mental health, and the potential for violence. As June 1987 neared its end, and the residents of Cleveland were busy following the exploits of the Cavaliers in the NBA drafts. The city's police department was facing its own pivotal moment in the investigation of Barry Stolzen's murder. Despite the mounting evidence against young Lockton Hollister, the detectives were about to uncover a twist that would redirect the spotlight back onto someone much closer to the victim. Warren O'Hare, Barry's partner and the one who had discovered his body, had been cooperative with the authorities from the outset. His grief appeared genuine and his shock palpable. However, as the investigation deepened, inconsistencies began to emerge in his account of the events leading up to the discovery of the body. The detectives, with their seasoned instincts, began to scrutinize Warren's every move and statement. Under the harsh fluorescent lights of the interrogation room, Warren's composure began to crumble. His initial story, that he had found Barry lifeless in the bathtub upon returning from an early morning jog, was contradicted by new evidence. Neighbors reported not seeing Warren leave the apartment that morning, and his jogging shoes, usually kept immaculately clean, were found covered in dust and untouched in the closet. Forensic analysis of the .38 caliber revolver found at the scene revealed fingerprints that matched Warren's. Furthermore, ballistics confirmed that the fatal shot was fired at close range, suggesting a level of intimacy with the victim that few others shared. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, the police realized that the threat from Lockton was a tragic misdirection. The revelation of Warren's guilt was a sobering moment for the city, which had been following the case with bated breath. The story was covered extensively by local news outlets, with the Plain Dealer dedicating entire sections to the unfolding drama. National interest peaked as well, with the case featuring on syndicated true crime shows, capturing the attention of audiences who were still reeling from the recent controversial trial of Claus von Bülow. In the end, it was the heartbreaking narrative of a love story ending in a suicide pact gone awry that captured the public's imagination. Warren and Barry, two men who had sought solace in each other's company, were now the central figures in a narrative that spoke to the fragility of human relationships and the devastating impact of illness. On the morning of June 25, 1987, as the first light of dawn broke through the mist that had settled over Cleveland, a somber procession of police vehicles arrived at the residence of Warren O'Hare. The city, still buzzing with the recent Cavaliers draft pick of Kevin Johnson, was unaware that another local headline was about to unfold. Warren, the partner of the late children's television host Barry Staleson, was about to be taken into custody for his murder. The arrest was the culmination of an intense investigation by the Cleveland Police Department, which had initially been led astray by a red herring in the form of threatening letters from a troubled teen. Now, the evidence pointed unequivocally to Warren, whose fingerprints on the murder weapon, a .38 caliber revolver, were corroborated by forensic analysis. His earlier statements to the police had unraveled under scrutiny, revealing a web of deceit that had masked a tragic truth. As Warren was escorted from his home, the scene was captured by local news crews from stations such as WKYC-TV and WJW-TV, who had been closely following the case. The footage showed a man defeated, his expression not one of surprise but of profound sorrow. In his hands, he clutched a photograph of himself and Barry, a poignant reminder of the bond they had shared. The story of Warren's arrest quickly spread beyond the city limits, making national headlines. True crime aficionados across the country, who had been following the high-profile cases of the Brinks MAT robbery in the UK and the unfolding Iran-Contra affair, now found their attention drawn to the tragedy of Barry Staleson. Barry's family, who had initially stood by Warren, was left to grapple with a complex wave of emotions. The grief for Barry was now compounded by a sense of betrayal by someone they had considered part of their family. The community, which had embraced Barry's show as a beacon of joy and education for children, struggled to reconcile the image of the beloved host with the dark reality of his death. As the legal proceedings were set in motion, the public awaited the trial with a mix of anticipation and dread, knowing that regardless of the outcome, the story of Barry and Warren was a tragic testament to the complexities of love, illness, and the human condition. In the sweltering heat of June 1987, Cleveland's Justice Center, a stark contrast to the festive summer atmosphere, became the stage for a trial that captured the city's attention. The prosecution, led by the formidable Liz Francaso, was preparing to argue a case of premeditated murder in the death of Barry Staleson, the cherished children's show host whose life had ended in a shocking twist of fate. The courtroom, usually filled with the routine of legal proceedings, was now packed with journalists from the Cleveland Plain Dealer and local TV stations, all vying for a story that had taken the public by storm. The air was thick with tension, not unlike the suspense-filled episodes of Miami Vice that had viewers glued to their screens on Friday nights. Liz Francaso, at 40, was a seasoned prosecutor with a reputation for her tenacious approach to her cases. She was ready to present evidence that would paint a damning picture of premeditated murder, drawing upon the cultural zeitgeist of true crime fascination that had been fueled by recent books like In Cold Blood and The Stranger Beside Me. On the other side, defense attorney Jack Myerson, 45, prepared to argue for leniency. He was set to present the jury with a narrative of two men, bound by love and a tragic pact, who faced the ultimate test as they grappled with terminal illnesses. The defense hoped to evoke the same empathy that had viewers rooting for the underdogs in the hit film The Untouchables, which had premiered earlier that month. As the trial date approached, Barry's grieving family sat in the gallery, a visible embodiment of the pain and confusion that had enveloped them since his death. They had lived through the initial shock, the media frenzy that followed, and now faced the prospect of reliving their loss in the pursuit of justice. However, before the arguments could be heard and the jury could deliberate, fate intervened once more. Warren O'Hare, the accused and Barry's partner, succumbed to his illness, his condition having deteriorated rapidly, much like the health scare that had befallen President Ronald Reagan earlier in the year. The trial was left without a conclusion, the courtroom without a verdict, and the public with lingering questions about justice and mercy in a case that had become a somber reflection of the times. In the aftermath of the unresolved tragedy surrounding Barry Stolzen's death, the ripple effects reverberated through the lives of those connected to the case. Teresa Cruz Alvord, once a rising star in the world of children's entertainment, found her career plummeting into obscurity. The cloud of suspicion cast upon her during the investigation lingered like a haunting specter, rendering her efforts to rebuild her professional image futile. Despite her vehement denial of any involvement in Barry's demise, public perception proved insurmountable, leading to a swift decline in her once promising trajectory. Lockton Hollister, the disturbed 16-year-old whose delusional obsession with Barry took a dark turn, was committed to a psychiatric facility for intensive treatment. His letters, traced back to him, revealed a troubled mind grappling with a distorted reality. As the legal system intervened to address the gravity of his mental health issues, Lockton faced a journey of rehabilitation and introspection. Detectives Laura Ingalls and Theodore Hoberman, the dedicated investigators at the forefront of the case, continued their service in the Cleveland Police Department. Each subsequent case they tackled served as a poignant reminder of the one that eluded resolution, a lingering testament to the complexities inherent in the human experience. Barry's family, grappling with the profound grief of losing a beloved son and brother, sought solace in the establishment of the Barry Staalesen Foundation. The foundation aimed to honor Barry's legacy by supporting children's education and the arts, channeling their sorrow into a positive force for the community. In the summer of 1987, the unresolved aftermath of Barry Stolzen's death echoed through the corridors of justice, media headlines, and the hearts of those touched by the tragic tale. The complexities of human relationships, the unforeseen consequences of actions, and the elusive nature of closure stood as enduring themes in this somber chapter of Cleveland's history. The tragic death of Barry Staalesen remains a poignant reminder of the complexities of human relationships and the unforeseen consequences of our actions. This has been True Crime Case Files. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay curious and stay safe. Hey, True Crime Case Solvers, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe, True Crime Case Solvers.